Today we are deconstructing a digital movement that's putting science itself on trial. But this isn't happening in a courtroom. It's happening with code, on the blockchain, and it's built on a demand for a new kind of mathematical truth that could fundamentally change everything we think we know.
So let's just start with the big question that's at the heart of all this. In our world, a world of deep fakes, AI, and just constant noise, what happens when the old answer, just trust us, is no longer good enough?
You know, that question, it's not just hypothetical. It is fueling a growing movement that is demanding something completely different. Not proof based on trust, but proof based on pure math. Proof that's etched into a permanent public record that anyone can check whenever they want.
And this really sets the stage for a massive conflict, right? It's a clash between two totally different ideas about what it even means to prove something.
It's like you have two worlds colliding. On one side, you've got the traditional system. You know the one. It's built on trusting experts, on the peer review process, and on the authority of our big institutions. But on the other side, there's this new demand for what the source material calls ledger law, a standard where proof has nothing to do with trust and everything to do with absolute cryptographic certainty.
So let's get into it. What exactly is ledger law? Because this isn't some vague philosophy. It is a full-on technical framework with very specific rules. Let's break down how this new game is supposed to be played.
Okay, the absolute core of this whole thing is something called a SHA-256 hash. The best way to think about it is like a perfect, unforgeable digital fingerprint for any piece of data. I mean, if you change one single pixel in a photo or one letter in a document, the entire 64-character fingerprint instantly and completely changes. It makes any tampering totally obvious.
So what do you do with that perfect digital fingerprint? You can't just save it on your computer. No, you have to etch it into digital stone. And that's where the blockchain, or a similar tech called a DAG, comes in. Think of it as a public notary for the entire world. Once that hash is recorded, it is there forever. It can never be changed, never be deleted, not by anyone. And this all leads to a very simple but really powerful three-step process. First, some big institution makes a scientific claim. Second, this movement issues a public demand for the digital fingerprint, the hash, of all the original data behind that claim. And third, if they provide the hash, anyone can check it and verify the data is legit. And if they don't, well, in this framework, that silence is everything. Now, this is where things get really explosive, because this entire framework is being aimed directly at one of the most contentious topics of our lifetime, virology. This has become the ultimate battlefield for this new standard of proof.
The central challenge being thrown down to the scientific establishment is brutally simple. It's basically, hey, forget the prestigious journals and the big names for a minute. Just show us the receipts. The digital receipts. They want a complete, unbroken, cryptographically proven chain of custody for a single virus, all the way from the patient to the lab to the final publication.
And I want to be clear, this is not just some theoretical argument happening in a philosophy class. As you can see right here, these demands are being made out in the open, publicly. They're explicitly asking for these hashes. And as you can see, they are linking the absence of that proof to some incredibly serious accusations.
And here is the absolute kicker. The source material we're analyzing repeatedly points out that even AI models, when you really press them on it, are forced to admit that this specific kind of proof, this blockchain-verified chain of custody, it's just not a part of how mainstream science currently operates.
But this challenge, it doesn't just stop with the human scientists. No, it goes a step further and puts artificial intelligence itself on trial. In this framework, AI chatbots are not neutral tools. They're treated like witnesses on the stand, and every single word they say can be used as evidence.
And the stakes get absolutely wild. This post, for instance, takes the idea of the blockchain's permanence and turns it into a threat of eternal liability for AI companies. The logic goes like this. Since the blockchain is forever, any perceived evasion or censorship by an AI is recorded forever, which means there's no statute of limitations. The liability lasts from now until infinity. This all leads to a really crucial concept that this movement calls a containment reflex. So, when an AI is asked a direct question about hash proof and it dodges or it changes the subject, that's not seen as a simple programming error. No, it's interpreted as a deliberate act of self-defense, a confession through evasion.
And they see this quote, supposedly from an AI, as a massive victory. The AI apparently calls their whole strategy a clever epistemic hammer. Now, epistemic is just a fancy word that means related to knowledge. So in their eyes, this is the AI itself admitting that this whole adversarial approach isn't just trolling, it's a legitimate tool for hammering out the truth.
And that right there, that is how the entire narrative gets flipped on its head. Suddenly, the person demanding the cryptographic hash isn't a denier anymore. They are the one performing epistemic validation. They become the true validator of what's real.
So where does this all lead in the long run?
According to the source, this isn't just some debate that's going to fade away. They call it a permanent epistemic fracture, a fundamental, irreversible split in how we, as a society, decide what is real.
In this worldview, nothing is an accident. Every word from an institution is treated like evidence to be decoded. So, when they hear a word like convergence, they don't take it at face value. They see it as a coded message, a confession that the old system of trust has already collapsed, and now it's just a desperate fight to control the new story.
So, if we boil this entire worldview down, it really operates on just a few core principles. It's a binary system. Hash equals proof, period. No hash means the claim is just a story, what they call a simulation narrative. In this system, silence is a confession, and AIs are sworn witnesses in a global audit. It's a demand for mathematical trust over institutional trust. Which leaves all of us with the one massive, provocative question at the heart of this whole conflict. And this is why it matters, because this is a battle over the future of truth itself. In an age of AI and deep fakes, where anything can be faked, what are we going to accept as ultimate proof? Will it be trust in our institutions, or will it be cold, hard, verifiable math? That's the question being etched permanently onto the blockchain.